Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's lovely to meet you again. We had heard Dr. David to give an insightful keynote speech on mother tongue-based multilingual education policy in Malaysia. And we don't stop there. And now it's my pleasure to introduce you to the last panel session of the conference, which themed mother tongue-based multilingual education among indigenous people in Malaysia. And the chairperson of the panel is Dr. Colin Nicholas, coordinator of the Center for Orang Asli Concerns. And the first panel is Madam Jenita Engi, co-founder of Pusat Didikan Komuniti Cenwaey, Penaney, Pahang, Malaysia. Next, we have Dr. Jeannet Stephen, Senior Lecturer of Borneo Institute for Indigenous Study, Universiti Malaysia, Sabah. And Mr. Josak Siam, former project coordinator of Dayak Bidayuh National Association, DBNA. Last but not the least, we have Mr. Komeok, CEO of Keruan Persatuan Penan, Sarawak, Malaysia. And welcome, and Dr. Colin, the stage is yours now.
Thank you, Kayan. Thank you. Let me share my screen. Hang on.
Yes, we can see the screen.
I can see, but I can't see it on my screen. Okay, so welcome to panel session number 3 on the topic of initiatives and challenges of mother tongue-based multilingual education among the indigenous peoples of Malaysia. A big thank you to the organizers for putting together this excellent conference and for suggesting this particular panel. I'm not a linguist nor a mother tongue specialist, and I must say that it has been a very steep learning curve for me in the last 2.5 days. I also note that Dr. Kwa Kia Seung is in the audience and will be speaking in the next session. And I want to call him out for encouraging me to look at indigenous languages so many years ago when he organized one of the first, if not the first, mother tongue language conference in 1997. So before I start, just a very quick overview. The term Orang Asal is now being used to mean the indigenous peoples as it is used in international law. It is different from Orang Asli, which refers to the indigenous peoples of Peninsular Malaysia only. So Orang Asal, when we use the term, would refer to indigenous peoples of Malaysia. This is the collective term for the Orang Asli of Peninsular Malaysia and the natives of Sabah and Sarawak. I'm in no position to vouch for the accuracy of the data, but a check online yesterday told me that there are 137 languages spoken in Malaysia. Of these, 118 are indigenous languages, or 85% of the languages in the country. The number of speakers of these languages, however, vary greatly. The Orang Kanak, Kintak, and Kenshu tribes among the Orang Asli are actually single village, single ethnic group, single language communities. For example, there's only one Kintak Orang Asli village, and they are the only ones who speak the Kintak language, and their population in 2018 was just 194. Whereas in Borneo, Malaysia, some of the ethnic groups there have huge numbers of native speakers, 1.1 million among the Kazan Dusun, and about 800,000 among the Ivans, for example. Incidentally, there are about 50,000 Samai Orang Asli in Peninsular Malaysia and not 50,000 Samai students. Anyway, arguably, depending on what criteria you use, they are all vulnerable. All their languages are vulnerable. Language extinction is forever. The Native American poet Dora Dovenhaver has reminded us that language extinction is forever, just as much as the loss of species is irrevocable. So the possible death of a language is no small matter to be concerned about. It has also been profoundly said that if an indigenous language dies, there is no place on earth one can travel to learn it. This is because you cannot really begin to save a language, especially an indigenous language, by merely teaching it. You have to put it in its cultural context. And you cannot really teach a culture, you have to practice it. And as we all know, you cannot practice an indigenous culture, especially if you're not connected to and living on your own customary land, your own customary territory. The speakers in the last 2 days have alluded to as to why it is important to keep our languages, especially the non-dominant ones, important. Why it is important to keep our languages. There is, however, another unusual but important reason to want to keep an indigenous language. It has to do with a very factor that has led to the development of the unique indigenous language in the first place, the customary land. I will illustrate what I mean with the case of the Temuans of Bukit Tampoy, who were asked to give up some of their land for the construction of the highway to the Kuala Lumpur International Airport. They were not happy with not being compensated for the land, as it was regarded as belonging to the state and not to them, so they went to court. Under common law, one of the basic necessary ingredients to stake your claim to native title is to prove that your society is a unique one, different from the mainstream communities. So Ninik Daban, shown here, was called upon to elaborate on the Temuan cultural practices. As the Pengulu Balai, the keeper of the culture, he explained the various cultural practices unique to his people, including the burial ceremony and the ritual to ward away rain clouds. For our context here, his explanation of the blowpipe was particularly wordy. He was able to tell the judge the Temuan names of the various parts of the blowpipe weapon system, as shown in this actual court exhibit. It was clear to the judge that the Temuan language was different from that of Malay, that this was important because the government lawyers were pushing the line that they were no longer Orang Asli or Temuans in practice, as they had already assimilated Malay culture and language and no longer practiced the Adat. So they had lost their claim to Tanah Adat, customary land. Happily for all of us, the judge accepted that the Temuans still had a distinct language and recognized that the community was a distinct people of Temuan origin with their distinct language, culture, spirituality, and customs on the land, and as such, deserving of the right of native title to the customary territory. So there you have it. Keeping alive an indigenous language can protect your rights to your customary land. Okay, enough from me. Time to hear from what our distinguished panelists have to share with us this morning. I'm looking forward to continue the trend for the last 3 days and getting more learning and insight into the issues revolving around mother tongue-based multilingual education. This is also a new term to me. So the panelists will be given 15 minutes. Each panel will be given 15 minutes to present, and I know they will go over the limit, being Indigenous peoples. We'll also have the presentations first and then the Q&A. I've also asked that all the questions in the Mentimeter to be cut and pasted into this chat group so that everybody can see with ease. No? At the end of the Q&A, we'll give each panel a minute or so to sum up, hopefully. So our first speaker is Jenita Engi. I'll stop sharing. Our first speaker is Jenita Engi. She's an Orang Asli from Negeri Sembilan, a member of the Temuan tribe. She got involved in Orang Asli activist work in 2005 and since then decided to dedicate herself to Orang Asli early childhood education, especially after she completed her diploma in that field. Her first project was the Community Learning Center in Ulutual, Pahang, Cenwaey, Penaney. Since then, she has been the trainer and module developer for the network of 9 Orang Asli Pusat Didikan Komuniti or CLCs under the wing of the Coalition of Orang Asli Community Learning Centers. So without further ado, Jenita, you have the floor.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Jefferson, Dr. Colin, and a very good morning to everyone. And I would love to thanks for having me today to share our experience. And today I will representing the 9th Community Learning Center that we call as a Pusat Didikan Community PDK for Kampung Orang Asli based in Semenanjung. Yeah. So here, throughout the process, we love to put here as our motto for the Community Learning Center is a learning together. So learning together means a lot of things. So because of our backgrounds is different, so each of us have to exchange experience, their knowledge, their traditions, their culture, their practical of life, and because among us, even though I am Orang Asli, but I am totally different, different language, different practical of life to the others. Okay, next. Okay, I love to recall back the foundations of the idea, how we come up with these establishments of the Community Learning Center or PDK. It started from back in 2008, 2009, if I'm not mistaken, during when I'm involved with the UNDRIP modules translation into Bahasa from English. So through the process, I learned a lot of things, you know, a lot of things with the deep understanding the article in the UNDRIP itself. For example, how we determine ourselves as indigenous people. As me, I am orang asli. What is how I can contribute to our communities, to our families, to our national or even country, right? So if you look at the article 14 itself, it says that education have to be on their own way and language, and this is really interested me. Really bring me on the pathway. I have to do something. I have to learn something from what I used to. What is my different from my comfort, you know? So the article 15 saying that the indigenous people or even the orang asli, they have the rights to practice to ensure that the cultural, historical, and any heritage historical have to be abandoned in the national education. This is something that I never experienced before throughout my learning experience during my school, you know. So this is something that I think that the UNDRIP is the UNDRIP itself showing how strive our leaders, our activists in the past to make sure all the issues concerned by the indigenous people being covered, you know. So that is the things why I come up with this idea to setting up a learning centers and working with different community. So if you look at the acts of Orang Asli Act itself, saying that Orang Asli should not be banned from entering any schools near them, where they live, wherever they live, the school near them should be allowed to let the children study there, right? So that is how I understand with this section 17 of Orang Asli Act. So it's either Chinese schools, it's either Tamil schools, or even national school itself, okay? So if they live in their own communities, Orang Asli schools is there, so it's comfortable, it's more close to them, so they have rights to enter the schools, yeah. And children's right itself. So in this CRC, I can see the two parts, the two parts of the children's rights to say that we have to the children have the rights to show their potential at the right time, you know, when they are ready, when they're able to learn, you know, and they will learn when they live in their own environments in a peaceful community, which means they will learn faster than you know, they will learn faster if they've been surrounded with their own community and environments. Okay, if you taking out them from the environment, something will be happen. Of course, it will take time for them to adapt with the situation. So if you look at the edition, I look at the also a study on the national education philosophy itself, saying that the third last says that the Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia, or MOE, Malaysia Ministry of Education, they take the effort to produce Malaysians who are knowledgeable, skilled, virtuous, responsible, and able to achieve personal well-being, as well as contribute to the harmony, prosperity, to the family, society, and country. So that means, to me, my understanding, again, I related back to the UNDRIP articles. So wherever far the Orang Aslis were studies, were experience, in the end of the day, they have to coming back to their family, to their society, to contribute any kind of skills, experience, so that the others community will learn, the other family members will learn from that. And I love to look into the child, the term of every child are unique, ability vary according to the child environment. This is something that I love to put here. You know, we have to respect the ability of every individual, not only for the children, but also an adult as well, because each of us has different environment, different life of practical of life. So that is why I putting this here. So next, please. Thank you.
Jenita,
Yes.
I hope you realize that you're wanted into your presentation, your time. So I know you have a lot of good information to give later on, but please.
Don't worry, it will be no longer. Okay. Yes. So another part how we come up with the community learning center is that the issues happen among the orang asli in educations. Yeah. If you look here, the teacher, parents, school staff communication breakdown. The transportation and route issues also is a part. School distance from the villages, family economic issues, social issues among the children in schools. Even there are orang asli among them, they still have an issues to be socialized among them. Accommodation, hostel issues, that is also another issue. Poor quality of food preparation is happen, you know, in the schools of where the orang asli being studied, especially in sekolah, especially for the orang asli schools itself. Bully, discriminations, you know, new resettlements, moral support issues, lack of awareness, especially on the school rules itself, because all this being shocked by the children when they enter the school, they just realize all these rules being implemented in the school. So this is something that's make them feel next slide, all these issues. Next slide, please. Okay, so all the issues, if apa itu the impact of the issues, the psychologies of the children being disturbed, not only the children but also the parents. Yeah, children are not interested in going to schools. They're also not interested in learning formally because it's very far different from their lifestyles, practical of life. You know, where practical of life is you teach the children in oral, whereby in formal school you have to read, you have to write, you know. So this is something different that they're not used to. They have then, because of the issues, they lost trust to the schools. You know, parents lost trust to the school as well. They feel not safe because they're not comfortable in the schools, and they're led to be independent. They not feel anything, any further actions. They cannot independence in any further in the futures. For example, you know, if they're going out to the town, what they can do, if anything obstacle happen in the town when they are growing up. So this is something that I put here is a delay to be independent, not much aware about their rights. This is some things. So every children's, like what I mentioned in article in the Orang Asli Act just now. So this is not much aware to their rights on education itself. You know, they have the right to school whenever they want, whichever schools that they wanted to study. You know, as long as it's near to their campus. Parental relationship with a school are strained. So this is because of due of the leak or weak of the communication between the parents, teachers, and the school staff with the parents. So this is something affected the parents and children. Next. Okay, so as an individual and orang asli, this is what come out with in my mind, and also some of our communities, youths, leaders, and so on. So what is our rules to solve the issues locally? You know, don't talk about nationally or even internationally. So we talk about in our family, in our community, in our kampung. So this is something that we have to come out a questions, you know. So that is why some of my friends also come up with the same question. What is our rules? So that is why some of us further study on education, some get you know, went for trainings, went for awareness workshop and so on to enhance our skill, enhance our awareness about education in our community. Okay, next, thank you. So the initiative is divided into two. It's either individual themselves, is like me, and some others, my colleague also. They take initiative to study, to getting know about their rights, about the awareness, about the importance of education, and another part, another initiative is by the community collective voices what they wanted. This is something that I can see under the article self-determination, they determine what they wanted. This is how the really related, really close connected to the orang asli. Practicality, you know, in practical. Okay, next. So this is how the Pusat Didikan community being setting up is by the individual initiative and also the community initiative with the collaboration actions with some few NGOs like JUA, COSCs, the donors, you know, and also individuals. So with these 5 parties being together to ensure that everyone in the right path to run the community learning centers, you know. Next. And yeah, so once everyone agreed, once the community, especially they determine what they want on the community to setting up a learning centers, one of us will have a sharing sessions and introduction sessions on the module. Me, myself, I will now, since 2009, I'm working on the developing module for the community learning centers with 9 of learning center. So before that, I've been working closely with the learning center in Pahang, but also include in this group. Yeah. So more important to setting up a learning centers is the introductions and sharing sessions so that the community has exchange what they need, what they want, and we share what's the process, what the procedures that to setting up a learning center. Okay, next. So this is the list of PDKs that we have. We were being working together and learning together, exchange information, exchange experience. So if you can see we've been working with the Temia's community and also Smai community. The Temia based in Sungai Siput Perak and also Greek Perak. So this district being working with us, and whereby Pahang we working with the Smai from Kuala Lipis, Pahang. So so the teachers were working with us now is more than 20 teachers and above 200 something of children. Okay, next. So who are our educators? So this is the background of the teachers who we working with. So I take my challenge. I take myself to challenge myself to work with someone who has failed in formal education. If you look at the current schools, they are most of the teachers they are qualified enough, they're being trained, but I take the challenge to working with the local community who being experienced failures in their schooling. Enter the formal school, they're not finished schools, some of them just in primary 6, some of them just in form 3, only few, I think 1 or 2 teachers who are finished SPM, who are finished. Rest of the teachers they are experienced the dropout in the school, so I can understand, and I am sure most of us understand that everyone, each of us, once we have failed in the previous, we will never repeat the same mistake again. So we will make sure in the future we will correct what they call. We will make sure that our new generation will experience new things. We try to support them. We try to let the children learn in a different way, as long as it's related to their what they call community and environment. So another what they call term that I not term, but the teachers who are determined on what they want. This is very, very important as well. So they are passionate, they are determined what they want in their society, in their community. This is very, very important because, of course, in general, none of the orang asli want to fail in their futures. So therefore, of course, I willing to work with this kind of youths of community who passionate with this educations, these community learning centers. More importantly, they belong to their local community lah. Okay, next.
Jenita, I'm sorry, but time is up. Can you finish up in 5-7 minutes?
Okay, Ken, thank you. And then, yeah, just to stress out, PDK is conducted not to compare or compete with the existing government school. It's more to help provide guidance to the orang asli community to love education, that the country can reduce the percentage of illiteracy among the orang asli, arouse interest to go to school and study for villages close to school, and provide learning space for villages far from school. So that's mean we can assist them. Okay, next. So our objective is to give a 5M skills, for example, like reading, spelling, writing, counting, understanding. So this is very important with a few activities that we can do. Okay, next. Okay, so because of the teacher and on their committees, they are not experienced, so skill assistance is needed. So we give them the management skills and developing teaching modules. So next. So management training would be covered the financial administrative PDK committees, setting up, registration, attendance, class timetable menu, and of course planning a yearly activities and calendar, student assessment, student reports. This is management training. Yeah, next. And this is the setting up of committees of PDK. Okay, next. And this is committee initiatives to provide facilities in their community learning centers. Next. You can see the photos. And we also give the motivation and exposure for all not only the teachers, but also the committee and also communities. Next. So the teaching modules training would be covered by the documentations to develop stories, develop comprehension question, develop short-term projects, develop long-term project. With the documentation by the teachers have to do research and survey with the elders in the community, their own community. Okay, next. So this is the structure, how we develop the modules. So if you look at the green, orange color, the community engagement with the community. So we are the coalitions just to support them. The rest is by the committee itself to find their own teachers, and develop the modules with me. Okay, next. So this is the modules and topics that we covered under the teaching module. So we already done the 20 modules and 79 topics since 2009 and until last year. Okay, next. Next, thank you. Okay, so the training, this is the photos that we having sessions with the teachers. So this is how we train them to speak, to be confident, not to looking down on themselves, so that they be comfortable when they teach to the children, and also when they spoke or speak to us. Okay, communicate with us. Okay, next. So the main versions of the module would be mother tongue is the mediums of communication when they are implementing the modules. So why I put bahasa is the first language to be printed or to be teach is because the issues of me, I'm different than my teachers. So the bahasa is the best communications medium that we use to communicate. So mother tongue would be the second, because of the background of my teachers, of our teachers, they are not well on, and even me myself, they are very weak on the writing skills. So we have to help them, assist them on the bahasa first before we being translated into the mother. So the sentences, the what they call the writing skill need to be start from bahasa to after that the mother tongue as well, then finish by English. So right after all the modules being printed, they can use mother tongue as the first language to be taught. Yeah, in fact, now they use the mother tongue to be their first language. When they teach the children, they will use their own mother tongue. Yeah, every like Semai and Temia, they have their own dialects in their locality. So they use that dialects to be implementing in the class. Even though they teach Bahasa, but still they use the mother tongue. Yeah. It's same like our general schools, SK or even Chinese school. They use Mandarin or even Bahasa to teach English. The same concept. Okay, next. So this is we also develop teaching aids to let the children, let the teachers to experience how to prepare the teaching aid by themselves. You know, instead of we buy from the outside, why not we prepare it ourselves in a different language? For example, like this is Bahasa, and some of our others teaching aid, they use their own mother tongue language. Okay, next. So this is a short story after they develop, they finish their documentation. These are samples of the short stories. The short stories have to use their own locality, history, stories, and so on. Okay, next. From the short stories, they were implementing. Next, please. From the short story, they were implementing in 5M activities: reading, spelling, writing, counting, and understanding. So this is very, very important. With the short stories, they expanded into 5M activities. Yeah, and right after, next, please. So they will develop a comprehensive question where the children can do this exercise in their house. So they will bring back the textbook, the exercise in their house, and they will study with their children, with their sibling, you know. And then short-term project would be an kind of assignment, very short, and activities are very short. We can finish it in 1 day. For example, if you look at the photos, this is a tradition foods modules that they prepared the what is it? Jagung bakar. Jagung bakar. So the children were prepared with guidance by the elders from their own kampung. So this is how we building this community learning center, by cooperating with the community, parents, and also teachers. Yeah. So you can see how using all the tradition of Orang Asli materials. Okay, next.
Jenita, please try to wrap up.
Yes. So next, this is the long and short term project. Okay, next. Next. So this is just a sharing. So this is cultural and native languages. We do the dictionary, photos dictionaries, pictures dictionaries in their own language. Next. Okay, these outdoor activities. Next. Nutrition, food for them in the PDKs. Next. And the challenges. Challenges would be a lot. Language, commitment, less confident, repetition, extended motivational and psychology, whether more time needed to fully understand the teaching concept, more time to fulfill the documentations, more exposure and exchange experience, facilities, root and internal governance issues, yeah, moral support. So yeah, next. This is the challenges, if you can see. Next. Thank you. That's all. I have to, otherwise I will take time. Thank you, Dr. Colin, for reminding me.
Thank you, Jenita. I'm sorry for hounding you, but you know, Jenita has a lot of experience and is very passionate about her work. 15 minutes is grossly insufficient for someone like her. I'm sure one day she will have her rightful say and time slot as a keynote speaker in some conference like this. The next speaker on our list is Dr. Jeannet Stephen. Dr. Jeannet is an Indigenous Kadasan from Sabah, Malaysia, and she has a master's in applied linguistics and bilingualism from the University of Newcastle upon Tyne, and a PhD in language teaching and learning from the University of Auckland. Currently, she heads the language and linguistics cluster at the Borneo Research Institute for Indigenous Studies, BorIIS, based in Universiti Malaysia, Sabah. Jeannet, the Zoom is yours.
So much, Dr. Colin. I hope my audio is good. Yeah. The presentation will be pre-recorded for fear of power failure and whatnot. But hello, everyone. Very good to be here. My name is Jeanette. And I'd like to introduce myself first for the recording place. Very happy to meet. There are some faces that I know, and good to be in this conference. Congratulations to the organizer. Over to the video.
Salam Sejahtera, good day, good evening, wherever you are joining this conference. My name is Jeanette, and I am from the Borneo Research Institute for Indigenous Studies, or BorIIS, University of Malaysia, Sabah. Here is the overview of my presentation. This is a pre-recorded presentation, but I will still keep to the allotted time. My thanks to the organizing committee for the invitation to be a panel in this conference. The keynotes and panel presentations for the past 2 days have been fantastic, and I am learning. Accepting the organizer's invitation to be a panel for this particular session, the first thing that came to mind was, here is a chance to be the voice for the teachers. That is one of the roles that BorIIS wants to play in ensuring we impact the society, the indigenous society in Sabah, by not only getting data from them, by giving them numerous questionnaires to fill in, but more as well by being a bridge or the voice on the academic platform. I was with the BorIIS research team doing a focus group discussion on feedback on the from the Kadazandusun community about the teaching and learning of the language, when I saw an elder walking past the community hall at the field behind the hall where we were having that discussion. The view suddenly made me think, how ironic is the indigenous language situation like this? Is my language already old and walking away from me, or is it me walking away from my language and leaving it? Let's look at some background story first before getting to our teachers. I am speaking from Sabah, also known as Land Below the Wind, and formerly also known as North Borneo. The photo illustration here from the Department of Statistics Malaysia shows the state's population based on the district. So, as of 2019, the population is 3.9 million with 33 indigenous communities communicating in 50 languages and 80 dialects. And according to the SUHAKAM, the Human Rights Commissions of Malaysia, indigenous peoples make up 61.22% of the state's population. These numbers could be different from when I last checked, but I put the citations there for this to show that I've retrieved information from those places. Moving on to what is the big deal anyway of these indigenous languages. The common expression, what's the big deal, is not like they're dying. Apparently we'll receive an answer of, yes, they are. On Ethnologue, a search on any number of Sabah's indigenous languages will likely result in a 6B on the expanded graded intergenerational scale, or IGITS. 6B means threatened, i.e. the language is used for face-to-face communication, but within all generation, but it is losing users. We can see examples here of Kadazandusun and Minokok, both 6B, and Kadazandusun is in the current education system as an elective subject. Another example is the Kimaragang language, which is also 6B. The community has started the Kimaragang language preschool in an effort to counter 6B from sliding down even further. Similarly, can be seen here for Rungus, and Rungus has also started its own heritage language preschool. The big deal is that there is very few to none indigenous peoples' languages intergenerational transmission happening. And this didn't just happen yesterday, it has been such for years, as these studies here show, and these are just a few. A study by the National Language Agency, Dewan Bahasa dan Pustaka, in 2010 for the Bagahak and Tabilang language estimated them to be extinct soon, followed by Ting and Tam in 2014 for the Kadazandusun language in Kota Blut, where there's a decrease in Kadazandusun use from the grandparents' generation to the Kadazandusun teenagers' generation. Most recently is Dani et al., whose research data placed the Dusun language users in Ranau, a Dusun heartland at that, as severely endangered. So 6B and signs of intergenerational disruption for 6 years now, and the question is, what has been done to help Indigenous children continue to be able to learn and use their mother tongues or language at home in Sabah? The answer is a lot has been done, including the establishment of the heritage language preschools. And later in the Way Forward panel, you will hear more about these efforts and various initiatives, both from Madam Rita Lasimbang and Mr. Jomin Maratin. I'd like to thank Mr. Jomin, the MTB-MLE director at SIL Malaysia, for helping me set up the meeting with the MTB-MLE teachers, or the heritage language preschool teachers. The teachers were selected by Mr. Jomin to reflect the years in teaching, so we can have various views. In this discussion, the neighboring state Sarawak was also represented by the Bidayuh language, by DBNA, the Dayak Bidayuh National Association. What is the teacher's motivation to stay in this work that often does not have enough facilities or funding? I have summarized their whys in these 3 points. The teachers is motivated to continue to provide an avenue to the language, to the young generation to learn that language, even if the preschool is the only place they get to hear the language, because at home it could be non-existent. The teachers feel proud to contribute to continuing the ability to make that their language is one of the most important identity marker of their ethnic community. And the teachers feel proud to help and support students who couldn't attend other schools, for example, due to special needs. And the teachers felt motivated and inspired when they can make a difference in their students' lives. What kind of challenges do the teachers face up to now? The teachers kindly shared examples and elaborations and explanations of the challenges they experienced thus far in their service to the Indigenous community. I've grouped these into these 4 items here: that parents' awareness or support or interest in using the mother tongue is low or none, and because of that, the home language with parents is not in the mother tongue. The child therefore does not understand the language at the heritage language school, resulting in the child being confused. They don't want to speak or participate in storytelling. And also the parents' language choice at home, when they speak to each other in Indigenous language, but then to their children they speak in Malay or English. And then the children, having no role model, speak to their siblings in Malay or other language, English for example, and also to the children in the neighborhood, they use this other language other than their Indigenous mother tongue. So then we have teachers. The challenge is teachers have to translate the Indigenous language to the child's main language, be it Malay or English or what have you, because the child simply just does not understand. And another example of a challenge is that new teachers who came in need training before becoming a heritage language school teacher. The new teacher need training in teaching and learning, and in the preparation of teaching materials. Another challenge is that there are demands from non-Indigenous parents to enroll their child at the school, particularly if the heritage language preschool have good image. And however, if this happens, the teachers have to do more translation for this other category of students who have no background at all because the parents can't speak the Indigenous language. And in this example, Bidayuh. In relation to COVID-19, the challenge that schools have to be closed because the teacher or teachers fell ill and was confirmed to have COVID-19. So the schools had to close, even if let's say at that time it could be open. And also during COVID-19 movement control, apart from technical issues, parents' lack of knowledge in the language themselves means teachers have to respond to their text messages and explain what does the homework want, or how should the students do the homework. Another challenge is the heritage language preschool in competition with other options for preschools. So this results in the sometimes numbers of children at the heritage language preschool reduces. I think there's a typo there. It's supposed to be preschool. Then there's also the initial lack of trust by community and parents on the abilities of the teachers and of the school itself, since often our heritage language preschools aren't registered. Then there's also the lack of use of the Indigenous language at home. Coming back to that again, the child couldn't recognize basic phrases or basic vocabulary in the Indigenous language, such as very simple phrases such as mari makan or let's eat in Malay, or pergi mandi, go take your shower in English, in their respective equivalents in the Indigenous languages. And to do that, teachers have to help the children. Teachers have to do more by taking time to meet parents and tell them, talk to them, encourage them, motivate them to use the language at home, because the teachers mentioned that the child is only at the school for how many number of hours, but the child is at home. The majority of the time the child is at home, and so that's where the language immersion should happen, at home. And it's a challenge if it's the other way around for the child. The teachers have to do it. Now we have come to the aspirations. What do the teachers hope for in the upcoming International Decade of Indigenous Languages? As you can see there, you could already, just by listening to the challenges, you could already gather or guess what do the teachers would like to wish for to happen. More teachers join them to replace them if they're getting along in age, or they just simply would like to take a break. So if there are more teachers, then they can go on break without worrying that the students wouldn't have any teacher to teach them. Also for the heritage language schools to be registered for a more updated curriculum and teaching aids, so that relevant bodies or agencies are confident with what we offer, to bring the Indigenous languages also to the primary and secondary school levels, And for basic appreciation on the efforts of heritage language teachers who are teaching to continue the identity and heritage of Indigenous peoples. These are aspirations that come from the hearts, nothing fancy, sincere work, unsung heroes, volunteers. Once I had a colleague who relocated here relocated here to Sabah from somewhere else. The colleague was so angry that there was no printer included in his office. He insisted he deserves a printer, and by the way, why can't the cleaner clean the whiteboard before he starts class? During the focus group discussion with the teachers, I couldn't help but think of that colleague and compared him to Madam Josephine, who has 20 years in service with amidst many difficult challenges, yet never once lost her smile as she responded to my questions. She just wanted the preschool to be the place the children can hear what the Indigenous language sound like, with or without a printer. Unsung heroes. In conclusion, I made this on my own as I did my slides, and I don't know whether this is correct use. My colleague can tell me later. I'm already over time, so I won't read it to you. Basically, it says, had there been a school like the MTB-MLE when I was younger, I'd love to go to one so that I won't become what I am now, one who cannot speak my own language. Terima kasih, Ketua, dan thank you.
You, Colin. I think, yeah, the presentation already took 16 minutes on that video itself. So
it's okay.
We'll just go for the question and answer later. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Jeanette. Thank you. As you all know, Jeanette is very inspired by the hard work of the civil society organizations, the community learning centers, and especially the MTB-MLE teachers who continue tirelessly to maintain the Indigenous mother tongues. Thank you, Jeanette. We will come back to you with at the end. Our next panel comes from Sarawak, and it will be jointly delivered by Josak Anak Siam and Dr. Carla Smith. Josak Anak Siam is a Bidayuh from Sarawak. He was a teacher for 31 years before retiring in 2005. After his retirement, he was the coordinator of the Bidayuh Language Development Project of the Dayak Bidayuh National Association, DBNA. This was a voluntary position which he held for 14 years before retiring in 2019. For those who are not aware, the Dayak Bidayuh National Association was officially registered in 1955 and since then has been active in the preservation of the cultural heritage of the Bidayuh community. His co-presenter is Dr. Carla Smith. Dr. Carla is an international senior education and literacy consultant. She has taught classes from preschool right up to adults. Besides teaching postgraduate MA level courses in several countries, she has more than 25 years of experience facilitating education and literacy programs for non-dominant ethno-linguistic communities in Asia. Dr. Carla and family live in East Malaysia for 11 years, where she worked with several indigenous groups. She has significant field experience preparing curriculum, training, monitoring, and evaluating teachers for early childhood, primary education, and adult literacy. She has lived in East Timor for the past 7.5 years and is working with HANS and the Ministry of Education there. So without further ado, Josak and Carla, you have the Zoom.
Okay, thank you very much to Dr. Colin for introduction, and greetings from Datuk Pahun, the Dayak Bidayuh National Association President and the Bidayuh Committee, and also our team at DBNA headquarters here. Good morning to all who are online. My presentation this morning is focused on two aspects: our initiatives and the issues and challenges that we encounter along the way. First of all, I would, as age is catching up with me, I tend to forget some vocabulary. So when that happens during my presentation, please bear with me. Just a brief introduction to Dayak Bidayuh National Association. Next slide. Next. Okay, now this is our headquarters. Now in the front part there is a round building, which we call Baruk. And I am inside there now speaking. Behind the Baruk is our multipurpose hall. And on the right-hand side is the former building, which is now demolished to make way for a new building. So this is, and as mentioned earlier by Dr. Colin, that Dayak Bidayuh National Association was registered in 1955 and to look after the affairs of the Bidayuh community. And one of the objectives that was set up during the registration was to preserve, promote, and develop the culture and language of the Bidayuh community. That is Dayak Bidayuh National Association. Now, when you talk about Bidayuh, you have to think the Bidayuh community is made out of 5 groups, even though there are dialects, different languages. But when you talk about Bidayuh, it's not one community. One community, but of different languages. So in Kuching district, we have the Biatah group. In Bau, we have the Bau Bidayuh. And in the Lundu district, we have the Selako and the Rara. And next, can you see the next slide? Okay. Syrian, we have the Buka Sadong. Why I put this is so that as I go on with the presentation later on, you will understand the production, the challenges we face in the production of various articles. All right, now next slide. This is the Bidayuh Biata, which is on the left-hand side. Now these are the ring ladies. Very few of them is with us now. Some of them have passed away, and this is how their dressings are. The Bidayuh Biata, and on the right is Bidayuh Bau group. Next is the Bidayuh Selako Rara. Selako is one group, and the Rara is another group. Now, in Syrian district, we have the Bukar Sadong. Okay, now we move to the next slide, which is in order to accomplish our objective of language development and the preservation of the language, we came up with a committee, and in the year 2000, there is one group, one organization in the Bidayuh committee called the Research and Development Movement of Singai. And this organization took up the challenge to do some research on the Bidayuh. And they managed to invite SAIL Malaysia branch to assist DBNA in its language research and development project. And after, in the year 2006, this organization, the research organization of this Bidayuh group, hand over the Bidayuh language development project to Dayak Bidayuh National Association, in which I was called in to help to organize the activities at the association. Now, with SIL coming in to help us, we were able to start off with our project. Now, our objective for Bidayuh Language Development and Preservation Project program, in short, we call it BLDPP. The objective is to standardize the spelling system, and we did that in the orthography workshop, producing reading materials, documenting vocabularies, preparing the curriculum for the Bidayuh language, and promoting the language of the language. Now, like we have programs in RTM, Radio Malaysia, TV Malaysia, and also we have debate sessions in to promote the language. Okay, now what are our initiatives? What are our initiatives? Next, the first one was research conducted on the Bidayuh language, and was documented in a book called Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. It's out of print now. We sold so many, and some were requesting for it, but we will maybe look into it to produce more, to print more. Then let's click the link below for research. We had various presentations since 2003 to 2017, and we document these selected papers into a book called Selected Papers of the Bidayuh Language Development and Preservation Project. That's the next page. Then we successfully documented Bidayuh language vocabularies in word list books for the Buka Sadong, as I mentioned earlier. Buka Sadong, 1, Biata, 2nd, Bidayuh Bau, 3rd, and we have the Selako. But the Rara is ongoing now. We have not produced the word list for the Rara group. So now we have only 4 of the word list. And also we successfully produced Bidayuh picture dictionaries in the 5 languages. Buka Sadong, Biata, Bidayuh Bau, Selako, and then Rara. All the 5 we have the picture dictionaries. Next. Now, we did, with the help of Dr. Carla and Jim Smith, we managed to produce the Heritage Play School curriculum for the indigenous minorities. Now, this book is available at our headquarters in 2 versions, in Bahasa Malaysia, and the other one is in English. Now, this is the book that we are using, this curriculum that we are using now in our play school. And there are many other officers from SIL who help us in the production of this curriculum. We also produce the ethnic language curriculum. It's a draft for the primary school primary 1. It's for the primary 1 students. Now, a pilot project in 6 primary schools across Syrian, Kuching, and Bau district was done in 2018. And DBNA is finalizing the curriculum draft, and there will be a report to the Ministry of Education, and we are waiting for what is the next step that we're going to do. Now, just a brief background of the heritage. Now, I concentrate on 2. One is the curriculum, the heritage language play schools, and the other one will be on the ethnic language curriculum. First of all, I bring to you on the Bidayuh Heritage Language Play School. In 2006, just a brief background. In 2006, UNESCO was actually desirous to open up an MTB-MLE play school in Malaysia. And the Bidayuh community was recommended by SIL Malaysia through Dr. Kala and James Smith. So we took up we had a meeting with the president, and the president decided to take up the challenge, and we did. In 2007, DBNA alongside with SIL Malaysia and UNESCO opened up 7 play schools across Sarawak, in Syrian district, Kuching, Bau, and in Lundu. Now the outcomes of this, expected outcomes is of opening up these play schools is to acquire basic skills and knowledge, strong literacy foundation to enter formal education, and then another important factor is transferring the language and culture to the next generation. What are the objectives of the heritage play schools? The first one is to enable the children to inherit the language, both language and culture, and they want to know their culture, the origin, and to know their identity. The third one is to build a strong foundation of the Bidayuh language, and providing opportunity to acquire knowledge, developing the child's potentials, and also giving the opportunity, providing opportunity for the local community to be directly involved with the children's education. Next. Now, stage one is target for the children who are age 3 and 4 years old, using the said curriculum, the Green Book. Have 3 hours a day, Monday to Friday, and we are following strictly to the school calendar, the national school calendar, with all the holidays in, and then the calendar for the school. Medium of instruction in the play school is 100% Bidayuh language, and we based on our play school curriculum for the indigenous minorities. Next. In stage 2 is, we call it Tadika, a group target children of age 5 years, and the same 3 hours a day, Monday to Friday, following the national school calendar. And the medium of instruction is about 80% in Bidayuh, Bahasa Melayu 10%, and then in English 10%. That is a time allocated. So this is to make sure that the children acquire the basic skills in Bahasa Melayu and then in English, in order to get them ready to go to a primary school later on. Next. Ethnic-based curriculum. We call it KBE in Bahasa Malaysia, curriculum Bahasa Ethnic. It's a template for any ethnic Malaysian language primary schools, and an elective language subject for speakers of any ethnic language. It's a template that can be used for any ethnic language, ethnic groups in Sarawak or even in Semenanjung, to open up the classes in their own language in the primary school. Now, the objective is to communicate so that the children will communicate confidently in their ethnic language, able to read and to write in their ethnic language, and to demonstrate an understanding of their ethnic culture and to know their identity. Now, on the right side here is the pilot project in 2018. This is a picture of the students in SK, Sekolah Kebangsaan Gahat Mawang in Tebedu district in Syrian. Next. This is at SK Apar with more students in the class. I think that was about 30 students in the class. And on the right is SK Jagoy with the teacher there and the children participating. Next. The next one is SK St. Elizabeth Jirak. The topic for that day is on culture and Gawai and the costumes of the Bidayuh community. On the right is SK St. Paul Borneo. The next slide. SK Gahat Mawang, that is teaching them the traditional dance. And this is a teacher from, on the right is a teacher, Daren, from SK St. Alban Ampungan in Syrian district. He's one of the very energetic teacher. And the topic on that day when we took the picture was about culture and the costumes of the Bidayuh community. Next. Now we come to issues and the challenges that we face along the way. The first, when we started off with the project in 2007, we encountered quite a number of issues and finance and challenges. The first one we had was on the finance, where we'll get the money to finance the project, especially the play schools. But fortunately, UNESCO, since the idea of opening up the play schools comes from UNESCO, and we took up the challenge, and UNESCO was able to finance the project for 3 years. 2007, UNESCO gave us 100K US, I mean 10K US, and 2008 12K, and 2009 12K. In 2010, UNESCO said, I think we are going to leave you. We have we gave you the chance to start off with your play school, and it's time for you to take over. And because we are going to leave to another country, that was from UNESCO. So in 2010, DBNA took over the finance, but we managed to support for about 3 years, and the funds kept on going very low. And in 2013, we asked the village community, we make arrangement with the village community to chip in to finance the project. But then the village community is unable to raise funds to sustain the school. So quite a number of the schools, because of also low enrollment and financial support, the school have to be closed. Initially, in 2007, we started with 7 schools, and over the years, increased to 12. But then, because of financial constraints and the low enrollment, we have to close the schools. Now, we have 3 strong schools that is still carrying the flag of the play schools. One is in Benok, and one is Sinjuk, and the other one is in Gahat Mawang. Now, Gahat Mawang and Benok has started in 2007 and is now 14 years in operation. The teachers are very confident now. They have all the skills that they need, and even I admire them going all 3 hours a day, starting the activities from one activity to another continuously. Admire them. They are doing very well. The second one is the community perception and the support of. There is a lack of community support, even though some give some encouragement, and some gave some. The perception is that when we charge a certain fees, they said, "Oh, it's too expensive." Another response is that my children need to learn Bahasa, the national language, Bahasa Malaysia, in order to get jobs in the future. Another one said, I succeeded in just the national language, and why do we have to focus on the mother tongue? And there are some who said that there are no materials. There are no materials in my mother tongue. And another challenge is that it's difficult to sustain the parents' interest. So we are working hard to get the existing schools going. For the government support, the schools are not officially registered, so we don't have much financial support from the government. A bit of financial support, which is through the elected representatives. We call it YBs, and they do give a yearly grant to the school, and but some gave as a one-off grant. Now, it is a hope in the future that the government will have a policy, a language policy, just like what is being mentioned yesterday by Joseph Bianco on policy which affects the social aspect of the people's life. So we expect the government in the future to have a policy change, and this will help us to get the mother tongue or the heritage language in the primary schools, if not in the secondary schools. Okay, now we go to the next factor. No, not yet. Still on these issues and challenges, the suitability of areas for the schools. When we open up the play schools, we have to look into the different villages in different regions. As I mentioned just now, we have 5 main groups of Bidayuh, and they each speaks different Bidayuh, even though we call them Bidayuh, but they speak a different language. So when we open up the play schools, we make sure that all the 5 groups are represented. So we open up in the village where all the children speaks the same language. We cannot get a teacher from another group to teach in that particular village. It has to be the teacher must be from the village itself, because they speak the same language. So there will be no problem when it comes to the learning and teaching in the classroom. Another factor on the play schools is the population. We look at the statistics and we look at the population of this village. If it is too few, we don't open up a play school there. Usually we look at if they have 1,000 more population, then we will be able to have a bigger enrollment. And we have to look at also the availability of infrastructure, the water and electricity, and the venue. One thing that I'd like to stress here is that the play school that we are running now is not able to be carried out in an urban setting. It's meant for the rural setting where the children are actually speaks the same language. Okay, now in a town area, we will not be able to have the enrollment that we need, at least about 15 children in a class. Facilities wise, we managed to make use of the abandoned community hall, renovate them, and we need some support from the community to have it renovation. And another factor that we have is constant change of teachers. The young teachers will have to go for other other jobs, so they leave, and then we have to change, look for another teacher to replace. Lack of reading materials is another issue, but we managed that. It was before the project, but now we are able to produce some small books, big books, and the word list to help us, and even the picture dictionary to help us in our program. It has been a challenge for us in the development of the curriculum, the teaching materials. We have to translate them into the 5 languages at the same time. So that was a challenge to us. And we are short of manpower and volunteerism, but we managed to get people to help us in preparing all the materials that we need. Now, last one is that we encountered was on recently, last few years, about 2 or 3 years ago, there is special children being enrolled into our play schools. So, we managed to get them, and they did perform very well. One child was with no legs, and the other schools, the other preschools was not able to take them. They refused to take, so we took them, but we managed to get that child. Okay, expansion, we will look into that in the future, where we have enough funds to open up more schools. This is all that I have to share with every one of you. We would like to thank this opportunity for us to be part of this conference. And in Bahasa Bidayuh, we call it Bahasa Asong Bangsa, Moyap Bahasa Moyap Bangsa, which means bahasa Jawa Bangsa, lenyap hilang bahasa, lenyap bangsa. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Josak, for that presentation, and also Kala, who's in the audience. I'm sorry we didn't spotlight her. The DBA, the Dayak Bidayuh National Association, is really a big established organization. I'm very impressed. And I think many language-based communities must envy what you have achieved. One of them is probably the Penan people of Sarawak, to which our next panel moves to. The panel is co-presented by Komeok Jo, James Bujang, and Dr. John Phua. The main presenter, Komeok, has been a Penan activist for 3 decades now. He is committed to supporting the rights of the Indigenous Penan communities and to conserving the threatened tropical rainforests of Sarawak. He is the founder and coordinator since 1995 of Keruan, a Penan self-help non-profit organization based in Kota Kinabalu, Sabah, but serving the Penan people of the Baram area in Sarawak. Keruan is involved in a variety of empowering activities for the Penans, including community-based mapping and monitoring, and legal assistance, health, education and infrastructure, and income generation projects. They're also documenting Penan oral histories and have produced a Penan dictionary. Keruan collaborates with international, national, governmental, and non-governmental institutions, as well as with other Indigenous peoples organizations. Now, James Bujang was born sometime in the 1960s in the forests of Sarawak, where his indigenous Penan's parents were living. He tells me that it was not until 1975 that he first met a non-Penan person, and it was quite a frightening experience. 2 years later, in 1977, he was sent to primary school. He found it difficult to adjust to the new environment and would often run away from school to return to the village. He also tells me that he was both happy and anxious when he started school, as it was all a new experience and new experience for him. He said it took him some time to adjust from just hunting and playing among the trees and trails to holding books and pencils and playing ball, from knowing hunting tools to using advanced tools such as a HP computer. He continued to Form 1 in 1983 before completing his Form 5 in 1988. This is no small achievement for a Penan, especially one from the forest homelands. After finishing school, he was unemployed for 22 years. And when finally in 2009, he started work with Keruan as the supervisor for the Keruan preschool. Now, Dr. John Phua is currently a senior research fellow at the Institute of Social Informatics and Technological Innovation, ICT, at the Universiti Malaysia, Sarawak, UNIMAS. As a development economist, he has done research and development work among the indigenous communities in Sarawak, especially the Penans, since the mid-1980s. Since 2011, he has also worked with Orang Asli communities in Pahang through the Telecenter program for Orang Asli, and as a TPOA, and as an advisor and mentor on agribusiness and community-based tourism programs there. He's also consulted for government, private organizations, civil society organizations in areas of rural development, poverty reduction, community education, and sustainable development. So with this, I pass it on to the team from Sarawak, from Keruan. Please, the floor is yours. Komeok. Please put on your cameras, the three of you, because
I think my camera is controlled by,
My camera as well, I think
I cannot open my camera. It was kind of controlled.
Okay. Someone from admin, can you solve that problem? I don't know what's the problem. Anyway, Komeok, just share the screen. Yeah, the previous screen, please.
Okay, this, can you see my screen?
Yes, Komeok, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, Jan Tahuk. Selamat petang and good afternoon. This is afternoon already. So, thank you for the floor given to me this afternoon here with all of you audience, speakers, panelists, and moderators, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see on my screen, I go to begin my presentation on preserving Penan identity and cultural through Keruan Preschool, International Conference on the Mother Tongue-based multilingual education. Here, I would like to explain, this is the oro. Oro in Penan is that the direction. If you lost direction, you cannot go ahead to what you want to achieve. And oro means that you can, if you see the long stick is mean that is the main oro. Oro is then like if, for example, if do mapping, oro stand for GPS or compass. In this long stick, we have three different objects. First is first in the bottom, they have the stick. They push it into the ground. You can see three pieces of leaf. Is then that the meaning is that you stay here. It means you stay here, waiting for me here. I will come back. This is the leaf meaning. And the middle one, there's the falling leaves. They put it, we are friend. And actually they put two sticks, we are friend. Then if you're hungry, I come to the river, I will be fishing. This is interesting sign language for the Penan in the forest. This is, I could not explain more detail because the time, yeah. So here on the screen, you can see on the right side that on the Sarawak maps, you see the red dot there. That is the Penan overview village. Yeah, this is the area where in Sarawak. My place is in the Upper Baram, on the right side. And if you see the four dots here, you can see our first preschool surrounded by Keruan is Long Krong. Second one is Batik near Barrio, and the third one is in Long Ajeng. Up left is Long Bangan. That is the preschool that started by Keruan. So here overview, the population of the Penan estimately now is around 27,000. I don't have any correct census from the government. The total of the villages is around 80 villages, and the total preschool in the Penan village run by Keruan is 4. And still, one preschool operating in Longbangan. You see the longhouse. This is my longhouse, Longkrong. The first preschool I started. This is the longhouse in my village. The longhouse is for the people gathering, ceremony, marriage, or whatever important events is done in the longhouse. Okay, this who are the Penan? Penan are ethnic groups of nomadic forest hunters that living mostly in Sarawak, but also live in small numbers in Brunei. They have traditionally lived a nomadic life in the forest. A majority of the Penan have already settled. And the Penan recognize two main groups, the Eastern Penan and the Western Penan. Those two groups are culturally distinct and geographically spread in the Baram rivers. The rest reside mainly along the upper Baram rivers and the upper Pajang river basin. You see, this is the leaders of the Penan. This photo is taken by the British Army in 1957. He hold a memory stick in his hand. It means that we don't have handphone like the people in the city for communication. But in the forest, we have communication with each other through our sign language and through our mother tongue. This is an important message from these elders. So here you can see if the preschool building that started by Keruan 1996, last to 2014. And the second one is in Batik 1997, last in 2013. Here is the student below this the building. Yeah, they still some of them already went to primary school during that time and even secondary school. So preschool, on the left is the third one, which started 2010 until 2016. This preschool was ended because the BEM take over from us. So Longbangan, we start 2011 until now, we continue. So here the Penan language preschool. In 1996, Keruan started early child education in Penan language in Sarawak with the support of the Threshold Foundation from the USA. This school started with children aged 5 and above using Penan, the mother tongue heritage language, with the intent of forming a strong foundation for a multilingual education program. Here in 2020 and 2012, two more Penan villages create a Penan language preschool. In addition to use the mother tongue, the Penan preschool 52 engage children in the learning process and encourage the development of every child, intellectual, social, political, artistic, and creative potential. You see the student, the child have a class in our preschool. So here the children is raise awareness about the irreplaceable value of the Penan language and knowledge and tradition, which include Penan indigenous knowledge such as plant medicine basic skill required to survive in the forest and learn Penan oral sign language. This is important for the children to learn to recognize the plants in the forest. The elders show them the plants, they are like medicines and also poisonous in the forest. The plants that can, like medicine where you can cure if you get snake bite or hurt or something. The picture on the bottom is that so the Penan had meant to make the roof for the Penan camp in the forest. Is important. Here, sharing culture and tradition, documentation and preserving Penan cultural practices and sharing mean petulat. In the Penan petulat, molong means it's which means never take more than necessary. You have to share with others. You have to respect others. For whatever in the forest, somebody on something, you have to ask permission from them. This is important message. And here, like what Dr. Colin said, that I'll write documentation. Here, the word from the first, the Atengha Jin Tanah Lalun. This is the book that we have prepared. That this is the story, a brief story about the Penan culture for the children to learn. See the young people fishing. They have to share what they have and sit down there. Then the people have food to share. Yeah, this is the strong culture of the Penan until today. Here, the Keruan preschool objective helps students to prepare for a school environment. Beside in the classroom, they can learn outside and outside surrounding area. So they have the discipline in school, and also protect the environment and also plant and animals. Yeah, also the objective, learn general language, basic school Malay, basic mathematics, and Penan language. Here you can see we teach the Penan children in numbers in the Penan Jadwa Telopa Lama 67 Ayah Pian Polo. That is simple that I prepared. Dan Pekalai Purung, it's how to read, and Jan is good, Murung happy, aku me kau you, ame we, iya he or she, iraf de, lu we, ngibun morning, mesep drink, kuman eat, laau hungry, mapo batok thirsty, tahu afternoon, maram night. This is a basic learning in the Peran language, and also the Malay and English also in our school. So community support, the Peran community leaders support enhance children learning, especially in the learning indigenous knowledge and Penan sign language. The preschool operate on the basis of community ownership and involvement, and are jointly managed by Keruan. These communities support their preschool through self-help, gotong royong, such as cleaning and the school compound and transportation, teachers to the school by four-wheel drive or by boat. Our building is that contribution by one of the contribution by the community. There are free construction, and also provide the wood or timber for the building of the preschool buildings. So here are the challenges for the preschool. Adequate financial support for learning, material, teachers, salary, refreshment, support between the school and the urban area. Our school, we have to look for our own, like teaching material from the forest, from whatever we can get to teach the children from the forest. Like in front of them, we put there's the leaf as a plate for them to serve the food. And also we don't have any proper teaching material. And we have, if we have some handicraft made by the parents who share, then we can buy teaching material in the bookstore, and some school in Brunei or Pakos, they support our school for the teaching material. So here, the students from Taiwan have come into our school and to the village to exchange the knowledge, to share with our students, drawing, painting, and also swimming, trekking. This is some kind of knowledge that we exchange with the Taiwan people. Here, besides that, we have to promote, like what I said, we promote our culture, tradition to the outside world. You see, I have built a house on the right. It's me to play the Penan traditional music, and on the left you can see many pattern, many carving, many. There are a lot of important meaning in that Penan house or Penan like a shelter I have built in Europe. So early year end activities. There's the teachers to. In this photo, you can see that James Bujang is here, and the teachers with the children playing outside the class and some in the classroom. And this is the year end in 2020. Few parents and students come to the village to participate. They stay in the farm due to the COVID-19 problem. The school give prize to the parent who support the school by sending their kids to the school throughout the year. So yeah, graduation 2021. Yeah, it was last week. That's why I put all the slides delay submitted to Colin, and because I wait for Mr. James Bujang visit the school last week. That's why this is the graduation of our student. Then we continue the study to the primary school, some of them, and some are still in that in our school in Longbangan. This is so yeah, this is really mother tongue. That this is my mother, this is me who fit my mother, because 12 of us, one mother can support us, so 12 children cannot support one mother. This is important. So this is the ending of my presentation. Jan Kenin, terima kasih, thank you, mercy. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, moderator, panelists, and friends. Let me begin my thank you for thank you. I know that there have been many interesting and useful presentations this week in this conference, and for the excellent presentation and speeches. This will help Keruan to adopt to further improve our plan, what we need to do for our mother tongue preschool. I believe many experience have been shared and good lesson learned for all of us. My parent advice, if you want to learn something, we need to learn from people who are expert in the matter. Knowledge is the light of heart. Tabara taman tinan ke. Hun luju pakai ino ulo tekep pekalai jin kelunan pun peno pengejam tong ne. Pengejam inah titui poso. Thank you for once again for the opportunity given to me. We wish you all stay safe from pandemic COVID-19. Tamo kape. See you again next time. That's all. Thank you.
Jan Kening, thank you, Komeok. Thank you very much for the team. 15 minutes is never enough time for indigenous speakers. I know that from experience.
If
there
any
is so
question,
much.
You ask Dr. John and James Bujang.
Yes.
Thank you.
There's so much to learn and hear from them. No, I know we are running out of time, but I also noted that there were no questions to ask so far in the chat book and on the Mentimeter. And this is actually very good, because this is a very indigenous thing to do. No, listen first and then only ask a question if necessary. So I'm also aware that some of the co-panelists did not have a chance to speak. So if we have a little bit of time, I'm inviting them to come forward and speak. This is Dr. Kala, John Pua, and James Bujang. We're having problems with James logging on as a panelist, but if you can come on, please take your time. Please speak. You're most welcome. John, go ahead, John.
Yeah, thank you, Komeok, for sharing. I think I know Komeok for a very long time, since the 80s. And my experience mainly in the Long Lamai, that's in the upper Baram River, because the university has a project there in the village called Long Lamai. So we do do a project on telecenters and helping the villagers to uplift the socioeconomic. But in reference to this presentation, I think the village in Long Lamai, they also have preschool, yeah, but it's very much community based, and they build their own a place for the school. And then they get funding from many CSO, yeah, I think mainly from church groups in Malaysia, yeah, in Kuala Lumpur. From what I heard from the school, yes, Long Lamai has a primary school. And before we have the preschool, the kids from year 1 has problem. But when they have this preschool, it's 1 year, I think the syllabus is quite the same as presented by Komeok. I think the learning is faster, yeah. So once you have a mother tongue language and preschooling and also adapting to school environment, this help the kids, yeah. So when they're year 1, they are more or less comparable to year 1 in an urban school. Yeah, so we do have this preschool assist those Penan kids in Long Lamai. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Dr. Kala, do you have anything to say?
No, I'm just enjoying listening to all these presentations. It's been great.
Yes.
There are some questions I note here that says open question. Is
Yes.
there any collaboration or work? And I think that maybe we might hear from Madam Rita or someone else about that, because there has been collaboration and work together among the Orang Asli and Sarawakians and Sabah.
Okay, yes. Rita is the next panel, I think. There are some questions coming in now. I'm looking at them. But if James is online, James, are you there? We did have problems with him logging in on as a panelist, but anyway, it's not here. So there are a number of questions that come in, and Kala's comment later will be taken up with Rita Lasimbang. I think she's in the next panel. But there's been a question here from Helen Ting to Komeok. What happened to those schools which were closed? Komeok or John?
The problem for the school that is closed due to the financial support. The two schools, we don't have any financial support. The third one is that because of the BEM take over from us. So that's why, that is the reason why our school closed. And actually the first school, it was supported by the church from France, donation from France. And after threshold pull out, and later on we start the school with support by BMF. Patik school is that mostly the student is from the nomadic Penan who roaming around in the forest. When the parents stay in the village, the kids come to the school. If the parents left into the forest, they left. That's why, that is the reason why we closed the school, the second school. So that is, yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, there are more questions for you coming up, but I'll come back to you later. But first to Jenita, the question is, what after the student finishes primary study, do they continue with PDK in secondary school or government school? Jenita?
Yes.
The question is, after the students finish, well, primary study, actually they mean preschool, do the students continue to primary school in a government school or what, no?
In our context, in Orang Asli PDK, most of the children and students, because we are missing the ages of the students, there are some from the schools. For those, we have two PDKs. We have two PDKs who which the student, where the students study in the primary school in the morning, whereby in the afternoon they were having an activity with the PDK. So for back to the questions, the planning after primary study, so the continue PDK or not. So because of the learning center is being established by the community, so there further up plannings for trainings for them to prepare outside activities. But for those children who are capable with the literacy, we now, with engagement with the governments, to bring them to the school so that they can finish schools right after they're having class with PDK. So this is the upcoming planning with the Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia. So in fact, today they are visited our one of our PDK in Sungai Siput today. Yes, I hope I answered.
These two questions are for Dr. Jeannet. You mentioned that the challenge of students, whereby the students no longer speak the mother tongue. You know, what percentage of students have this issue? And could you also share more about the outcome of the focus group discussions? And does the group still operate? No?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Colin, and thank you for the question. I think that first one was from Dr. Kirk, which I've replied on the message, but it's okay. That observation was actually from one of the discussant inside the focus group discussion, who had worked for about 20 years, including this year, one of the most senior in the mother tongue based multilingual education, or actually we call it the heritage language preschool program in Sabah. Because when she first started, the students all sound like her, all very fluent speakers of their indigenous language, Dusun. That's from their CLC, in Kampung Kibunut, Penampang. But then over the years, as years go by, and with time, modernity, and what have you, she noticed that the fluency started to reduce. And by the year 2000, she mentioned about 50% of the kids in the classroom would be fluent. And the year after that, it would go down maybe around 30%. Yeah, so we don't exactly, I think the teachers are giving their information based on their observation. They don't have exact numbers per se, but that's from the respondents herself. And to the second question, the focus group discussion, I would admit, is very new, very small. But like I said, I didn't plan for it to be very academic, although BorIIS plans to be the voice from the academic platform, but we prefer, or we would have more impact if the voices of the teachers come out. And one other focus group discussion, and we often change people, but for these particular ones that Mr. Jo Min and I selected are from the different years of experience. We plan to have it off and on, depending on the availability of the teachers, because as researchers, I don't plan to be demanding of their time, because the teachers are doing many things on their own volunteer capacities. But the focus group discussion has been very eye-opening for me myself, and I do plan with their approval to carry on if they are okay with it. Thank you, Dr. Colin.
Thanks, Jeanette. This question is an open question, but maybe Josak can answer it. How was the interaction among the Indigenous community with other ethnic peoples at the local level? It means the Bidayuh and non-Bidayuh ethnic groups. Josak? Okay. We'll come back to you later on this. Okay, you're on.
Okay, what was this question?
I think basically it's about the interaction between your community and other ethnic communities. When you tend to focus on your Bidayuh language and Bidayuh culture, how do the other communities see it?
Well, we had so many activities, so many events that we organized over the years, which we call it the festival, Cenwaey Festival, where other ethnic groups join in the parade and all that. So we did some dialogue sessions and all that. So the other communities admire what we're doing, and they look up to us. And hopefully in the future, they will join us in the program. Now, there was one question that was asked by somebody. you said the performance of the children in the play schools. Can I answer that question?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Now we are so glad our play schools is for the 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, and these children, we are getting them ready to read and write before they go to the preschool in the primary school. Now, when we don't have any classes, the play school for the 6-year-olds, so they go to Kemas or they go to the primary school, preschool, and the teachers in that school admire the skills that they already acquired, the basic skills that they already required, recognizing the alphabets, and they were able to read a few sentences, words, and they were able to add and subtract. Now, the teachers in the preschools are so happy, and the performance of the children are better, and they are ready for the next thing in the education system. So when they go to primary 1, a teacher told me just a few years back that her tears came out to see that out of the 30 to 35 students in primary 6, the first 10 are from our play schools. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with what we did. In fact, we are helping the children to get ready to go into primary 1, and they are more confident. That's all. Thank you.
Great. Now there's an open question. Is there any collaboration or work between the Peninsular Orang Asli schools and those in Sabah and Sarawak, for example, the heritage schools? No? And is there any kind of support and resource for this? Anybody can answer that. Is there any collaboration or working together among the indigenous groups in Sabah, Sarawak, and Peninsular Malaysia in terms of languages, heritage languages? No.
We did. We have some connections, training, teachers training, and all that in Sabah, and we have a few schools in Sabah. I think Dr. Jeannet can answer that. But in Semenanjung, we heard only a few schools in the play schools among the Cenwaey. I don't know whether it's still going on now or not, but we try our best in the Bidayuh community to proceed on. Dr. Jeannet.
Thank you, Cikgu Josak. Yes, there's one large Malaysian level Malaysian Indigenous Peoples Conference in education. The second one was held in 2016, and that was when the universities in Borneo, UNIMAS and UMS, and all of the CSOs involved in the heritage language, including SIL and experts and specialists came together as one to for the purpose of celebrating what is Indigenous education. And so out from that, my first one was in 2016, which was amazing. There was a featured workshop by specialists from Payap University, which had all the teachers from Peninsula, the Orang Asli communities from Sarawak and from Sabah, join the ethno-arts language material production, and they had 3 days there. And very happy to say as well, I think later on my colleague Rita will be able to explain more, but Sabah had our own ethno-arts workshop again for about 3 or 4 days, and we invited Dr. Mary Beth and Todd Sarman to come and give this workshop to the teachers who couldn't make it during 2016 MIPC. So the collaboration is there, and it's very good, and we hope to see more, hoping that MIPC 3 would be in the picture soon. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you. I hope I have another 5 minutes for more questions. Komeok, there's a question for you, or 2 questions actually. Is there a difference between East and West Penan in terms of languages and education? And the second one is, since most Penan have been resettled, does it affect their previous nomadic lifestyle and changes in the education rate?
Yes, thank you for the questions. I think between, you mean that Western and Eastern Penan. Yeah, I think we are called Penan, but the dialect is different. And also the Penan also we have sub-ethnic around few, but the language that we use in writing or our school, whatever is in the Peninsula, I'm the one who documenting. Yeah, this is, we can understood what when they talk to us, we can, but sometimes we speak Malay. You know, if the Penansilat is totally different. Only the elders can understood the language of the Penan, because the Penan, Western Penan in Belaga is different from the Baram. We still can communicate. Yeah.
How about their previous nomadic lifestyle? Has it changed that, or for those resettled Penans?
I think for now it's all in the Baram mostly it's all settled. Only few in the Limbang area still are roaming in the forest. The life during the now when the Penan settle, it's not much different for those who are living in the longhouse, because in the interior it's difficult for them to come up to the city. Most of their lifetime is in the forest, sometimes doing the farming and hunting, but they rely on the forest to survive, and it is.
Thanks. Jenita, one question for you. Based on your observation, how do the PDKs, the community learning centers, help the Orang Asli children in schooling, meaning formal schooling?
Thank you for the questions. In our experience, our learning center play a very important role as a therapy for the children when they are stressed in the school in the morning, right? So when they're coming back after school, in formal school, they will feel so stressed when they enter our PDK. Everything will change. Everything will change because we're using their mother tongue and mix with my language as a bahasa. Of course, I have to communicate with them in bahasa. So they will feel like, Cikgu, we are so stressed today, you know. So we're having an exchange communication, you know, they will share their experience in the morning. So what happened to them, how the teachers treat them, you know. So from that, we were having an interaction with the children, how to overcome the stress, how to face the challenges. It's a part of challenges when they face the teachers, because the teachers is Malay or even Indian, you know, it's not Orang Asli. So they feel like, okay, I have to speak bahasa, not my mother tongue. So it's a bit challenges for them. So when they are in our PDK, so everything were recovered with storytelling, with and activities, drawing, and so on. So our usually when they will definitely will share any issues happen in the school, in their house with us. So that is the process how we helping them to what they call to refresh back their psychology, their motivation, so that tomorrow in the morning when they're starting to next school, so they will feel fresh, they will feel energized when they're facing their teachers. So that is how we daily experience in the PDK. And also we encourage all the, not only the children, but also the parents to send their children to school. You know, our part is to having fun with our traditions activity with the children, so that there is balance check with the children's emotions. That's very, very important.
Thanks,
so children need moral support. That's it. Otherwise, I will put.
Yeah. Yes, and another question for you also, Jenita. Do the Orang Asli students at the PDKs also study the national education curriculum, or also follow the national education curriculum?
You mean in PDK?
Yeah, in the PDKs.
Yeah, actually, it's a little bit different because we're using what they call, we integrate the traditions orang asli and the mainstream education, so that they know about counting, they know about geography, they know about history, they know about bahasa, they also know about a little bit of English. So, but more focus on the traditional practices lah. That is very, very important. Because why we come up with the traditionals orang asli practical lifestyle is because the issues of assimilations happens a lot among the orang asli who are being educated out there. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. I know we've run out of time. And I know I also promised speakers a chance to speak, but if any one of you have a really pressing issue you want to raise, please do so now. 1 minute only. The speakers. If not, I want to thank all of you, and the closing words from Professor Jeffrey Benjamin from NUS, from Singapore, is most apt. He says, I have learned a lot from this morning's presentations. In the past, I felt rather discouraged about the chances of using Aslian and other orang asli languages in school. But I now feel that with the newer ideas coming from within the communities themselves, there is certainly some hope. And I fully agree with it, and I'm sure you guys do. So with all, I'm very sorry for going over time, but I think this is the most necessary and most common in this context. And we look forward to the next decade, 2022 to 2032, for the International Decade of Indigenous Languages. This is a time for us, it's most timely, it's time for us to act now to write on the publicity. Thank you very much to all the panelists, and thank you very much to the audience.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, thank you to our speakers for their impressive and truly inspiring sharing. And thank you to Dr. Colin Nicholas for chairing the session and making the session a very successful one. And thank you for all the audience for participating in the discussion actively. Thank you so much. Now, this concludes the panel session, and we will have a lunch break now. We will be back at 2 p.m. sharp for the anticipated plenary discussions and Q&A session chaired by Dr. Helen Ting. And the panelists are Dr. Kwak Kasiong, Madam Rita Lasimbang, Mr. Michael Maringjo, and Mr. Jomin Maratin. Thank you, and see you all later at 2 p.m.